Welcome, everyone. I think we're beginning to have people enter, so we'll just give a couple seconds here and welcome everyone to the Professional Horticulture Program informational session. And I'm Crystal Huff, and I'm the Director of Domestic and International Studies here at Longwood. And we're going to spend some time talking about the program. We have some students with us that'll be here as well to answer some questions that I have for them. And then we'll give you all time to ask questions as well of either me or the current students that are here. So hopefully we can spend the next hour or so and learn about the program and allow you to have time to ask us questions. So with that, hopefully everyone's in okay, and we'll get started. So again, my name is Crystal Huff. I'm the Director of Domestic and International Studies here at Longwood Gardens, and we're going to talk today about the Professional Horticulture Program. This program is really a flagship program for Longwood Gardens. It's just celebrated its 50th year. So this program's been around for quite a while. We have people in all different places and all over the world and all over the country doing many different things that graduated from this program. So the program right now is a 2-year residential immersion. And when I say immersion, you are living, learning, working, doing horticulture. Pretty much 24 hours a day, kind of, not that bad. But you're really learning from the best. You're learning from our experts. You're learning from some of the instructors, our college instructors. We give you opportunities in entrepreneurial areas. There's field trips, there's study abroad, and I'm going to go into detail with all of those things. But the great thing is it's a residential program. Housing is provided free of charge, and you'll earn a wage while you're here. So this is a program where you can leave here with a certificate. That certificate will allow you, because of Longwood's name throughout the horticultural industry, give you ways to network into jobs and employment opportunities that can get you moving on your career in horticulture. And so with that, a lot of times I get questions about, well, who applies for this job? I mean, this position? Is it high school students? And yeah, sometimes it's graduates right out of high school. You have to be 18 years to join us. Sometimes it's college graduates, and they may be in areas of horticulture, but they also may be in other areas, and they've gone to college and gotten some background. Maybe they've gotten a degree. And then there's also people that are total career changers. Things have changed in their life. They've always kind of liked horticulture, really didn't pursue it as a career, but now they're looking into it. So we have a very wide range of people. And that sounds like it's kind of weird and a little bit different people, but from a standpoint of my standpoint, you have a very diverse group of ages that allows for a lot of interaction, a lot of discussion, and a lot of growth for everyone. So it turns out to be a really dynamic community. And one of the things you'll find out as I'm talking about this, Longwood and this professional horticulture program is about community. And you're going to see how community grows out of this, because you'll be living with other people who are learning all about horticulture. And we'll go through that as I talk further. So after you're done the program, some people go on to commercial horticulture, they go into public horticulture, they might work in private nurseries. Jobs are very broad in horticulture, and we, through this program, prepare you to go through a lot of those career areas that you might not even know about right now as we're talking. And you'll be exposed to a lot of those if you would apply and be accepted into the program. The other really great thing about the program, because you are taking college level coursework, we have articulation agreements with Temple University at Ambler, as well as at Delaware Valley University. And those two universities will take those credits, apply them to your bachelor's degree. And usually with 3 or 4 more semesters, you can complete your bachelor's degree. The really great thing about this program there is no cost to attend. So you come here, you have free housing, there's no fees for you to pay. And we do pay you a wage, not a bunch, but it'll help you put food on the table for sure. So we look at this program as being a way to really develop those horticulturalists for the future, and that work gets taken throughout the world and throughout our country. So right now we do have an alumni association, which again is a great networking opportunity. Each week jobs are posted through the Alumni Association, and they represent about 324 people who have graduated from the program in the last 50 years. And so One of the really great things about the program from my standpoint, last year and almost all years, 100% of our students are placed in horticultural jobs when they leave the program. And that is a really testament to Longwood's reputation, as well as a testament to the ability of the Alumni Association to network throughout the country. So I'm going to highlight some of the interesting areas. And I talked about working, learning, and living because those are the really three big areas. And so working at Longwood, some of you may not be very familiar with Longwood Gardens, others may be more familiar. Longwood Gardens is a world-renowned garden. It is a public display garden, and we work really hard to keep that display in a top-notch condition. And so all of the professional horticulture students participate in that process. And we'll talk a little bit about schedule, but here you can see one of our professional horticulture students. This was actually assistance during our Christmas show. And then you can see sometimes horticulture is the mundane things like weeding, and some of that happens as well. So I'm not going to paint a total fun, fancy picture, but some of that happens as well. You can see here the students are actually helping in our research facility. They're also assisting in our conservatory, and they work in our production facilities as well. So one of the things that I wanted to show you was our work rotation schedule. And so if you're a new professional horticulture student coming, we usually have a cohort of 10 that come. They start in August, and they will graduate 2 years later in July. So each August, 10 new students come. So at one point, we will have 20 professional horticulture students living here at the same time. But if you're a new student coming and you happen to be professional horticulture student 1, as you can see here, in September, October, and November, you would be working with our outdoor teams. Once December hits, you're going to move into the conservatory, spend 3 months with that team. Then you're going to go into our greenhouse production facilities and work with that team. And then again, you're going to go back out in the outdoor team. You'll notice also we have IPM, Integrated Pest Management. We have nursery, that's our nursery production facility where we grow woody plants. We have research. We do quite a bit of research here at Longwood. There's land stewardship. Land stewardship is actually taking care of our meadows and our wild acres that we have here. More like ecology and land stewardship, if you think of it in that manner. And so there's really a broad opportunity, as you can see, to rotate through these different areas and work with the experts here at Longwood Gardens and learn their techniques, how they take care of things, how they plant. And also, you realize horticulture changes throughout the year. Obviously, now in February, we're kind of getting ready for March when we start to see things coming up. We're starting to get ready to plant. And so the following year, your rotation may be a little different. So we're trying to have you experience the garden throughout the different seasons. And so this gives a really good opportunity for a deep dive with our experts, learn their techniques, and share. And it's an awesome opportunity for the students. Then let's talk a little bit about learning at Longwood. And this is one of the things, although this program does give you opportunity to work side by side with professionals, it also is a program of learning. And students, and you can ask them in a little bit, but it's a pretty big lift because you're working, not only are you working, but the credit load that we're giving you is maybe not a total full load for a college credit semester, but it's starting to approach that. And so there's a lot going on. This is not, and we tell people all the time, this is not a 9-to-5 job. This is probably not even a 6-to-2 job because it continues on later. There's studying that needs to take place. There's plant ID that you need to learn. You're taking courses in soils, you're taking courses in greenhouse production, you're taking classes in fruit and vegetable production, entomology, plant pathology, and it's very broad. And so it's not much different than literally taking a horticulture course at a college or university. So here you can see, and fortunately or unfortunately, a lot of these photos were taken during COVID, so you can see a lot of masking, but hang with me here on that one. So you can see here the students with the blue cups are actually doing soil testing and such. So they're actually working through some of those things. Notice they're doing those labs as a team. We have arboriculture, you can see in the center. You do get to use a chainsaw and you do get to climb some trees. And then you also see here on the other picture, we can see using large equipment. This is out at the nursery. So all of our coursework, and this is one of the things that I'm really I think is really great. You learn and there's lectures and you're literally learning in the classroom, but then all of that information is applied. So it's not like you're just sitting having someone talk to you. You have the opportunity to go out, climb trees, work with large equipment, do soil sampling, and you're really learning that applied application of that knowledge that you're getting from a book. So one of the things that everybody asks me is, what's the schedule look like? And this is a typical schedule. In fact, this was the ProHort schedule, and we call them the ProHorts instead of professional horticulture students. The ProHorts actually, if you look at their schedule for this past week, they were in floriculture class, which is a floriculture production class where they're raising plants to sell at a plant sale in the spring for a couple hours. Then they had break for lunch. Then they were with the nursery production team learning how to raise woody plants. And then they had tropical ID plant. They had a lecture, which went until almost 5 o'clock that day. Tuesday, and I'm not sure when they're all starting work, but probably 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning and working till 2:30, 3:30 in the afternoon. And then that was followed up by their plant ID lab, where they actually physically went out and they learned about the plants that they learned about the first day. They went out and they're able to identify those. So they're learning about all of those plants that are in the conservatory. Wednesday comes along, again, we have class from 8 till noon. There they're learning woody plant ID. A lot of that is happening if you're looking at trees. How can I identify them by their buds? And then following that, there was a couple hours of fruit and vegetable production class in the afternoon. Thursday comes along, back into work. One of the things that's really great here is Longwood has a lot of unique projects going on. And one of them is actually the orchard house that is opening again this weekend. And so some of the students got to participate in that installation process this Thursday. So some of them were there this morning, others were in their regular work rotations. And then Friday, again, you can see we have 3 different classes taking place. So it's a busy, busy time. And at this time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday are classes. Once summer comes along in the springtime, this group will actually have classes Tuesday, Thursday, and be in work rotations Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That provides the opportunity when it's busy in the gardens, like it is during the spring, for those professional horticulture students to be out there working side by side during that time. And then the classwork is kind of less. So we rotate back and forth in those 3 days or 2 days a week, and gives a great opportunity for the students to learn, but also to be out there working all at 1 week. So living on the row is a unique situation. We have housing for 40 students. And again, we only have 20 professional horticulture students, but I'll let you know who the others are in a minute. And the houses are old tenant houses that were built back in the 20s. Been somewhat cared for. They, how do I say somewhat cared for? They've had a difficult time. They've been around for almost 100 years now when I think about it. But we keep them up, we renovate them. They actually end up being a place for people to gather, and you can see the furniture on the front porch tends to be a place where people gather frequently. The ProHorts also, there's an opportunity to grow vegetables. They have a vegetable plot that they can grow during the summer months and the springtime. And then there's also an area where ProHorts get to have a small garden area where they can experiment with different plants. So these are personal garden areas back where the students live. It gives them an opportunity again to experiment with plants, to try different kinds of vegetables, as well as to try different kinds of plants that aren't necessarily in the gardens, but things that they might want to learn more about. And also living on the row is where we really try to build community. You can see the group picture is actually, unfortunately, right before the students had to leave due to COVID, But those students in that picture are international students. We have interns that come here and trainees, and they join us from all over the world. We've had people here from 40 different countries. And so they come and visit and they share what they know and the knowledge they have, and they learn from us. We also have college interns that spend either the summer or they'll spend an entire year with us. So when you're living on the row, we call it the row because it's red line row. When you're living on the row, you have an opportunity not just to be with the pro-horts that are in your class, you actually get to learn from all of these other people that are interested in horticulture that come from all over the world. And so it becomes a true learning community. And I think it's a pretty big ice cream eating community as well, because it seems that ice cream trips are regular parts of the relaxation and time away and time to just socialize and relax. In addition, we actually help professional horticulture students become entrepreneurs. And this is actually from our Christmas sale that we had this past season. We have a small greenhouse where the students grow crops. And then we actually sell them out and put them on display and pricing and all to our guests here for 2 days. We'll have another one in the spring. The crop they're raising for now is some perennials and annuals that'll be sold out in the spring. So some beautiful crop, some beautiful things, great opportunity to learn how to be a business person. Other things that the pro-horts get to do is go on field trips. The one picture where everyone is taking a picture is actually this is in the Pine Barrens, and I think he stepped somewhere that was a little soggier than he thought it was, but we always take a trip to the Pine Barrens. Sometimes field trips will be to local businesses. Here, the class is learning about how to market and sell a product out, and there they were at that. So we do another thing with all of our classes, field trips are involved. It's not just what Longwood does, it's what happens throughout this area. And with all the connections we have and the constructors, we actually get to go and see a lot of different places. And finally, perhaps the biggest field trip of all of the professional horticulture students in their cohort have an opportunity to study abroad. And in this case, they were in the UK, learning from the people there at Kew in the center, actually looking at unique plants, and all of those are learning opportunities. So there's a study abroad program. The students design and decide where they're going to go and visit for anywhere from 10 to 14 days. So again, the ultimate field trip perhaps. And finally, to be a part of the program, you also have the opportunity to build a garden that is on display in Longwood Gardens. And so these are called our student exhibition gardens. As part of our landscape design and construction class, students actually work together on teams to create these 3 beautiful gardens. There's a theme, the gardens are then installed, they're designed, the materials purchased, everything is done by the students on those teams. Interpretive signage, plant signage, etc. So this is actually building a display garden in a public garden. And they are on display for 1 year. And then obviously the next class will come in and put in their student exhibition gardens. These gardens are allow students opportunities to work together, but also to do presentations, because this has to go all the way through the board and to the CEO and president for approval. So they practice those skills of being able to put forth their ideas and seek approval for them. And finally, I love this picture because these 3 students have become lifelong friends. They probably will remain lifelong friends. They're all over the country right now. One's in California, one's in Hawaii, and one's here in the Kennett area. And these students are immersed in plants. And the professional horticulture program, although it is a lot of work, takes a lot of time, it is, if you are a plant person, you are totally immersed in plants. You're surrounded by people that love plants, that want to learn about plants, and the opportunities that you can learn and the people that you can meet, again, lifelong, life-changing opportunity. So that's my background on it, to give you an idea of the breadth and the scope of it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop sharing my screen, And I'm going to actually throw it over to the professional horticulture students that are with us right now. And they're just going to introduce themselves and give you an idea of who they are. And folks, maybe you can just say your name and where you're from. That'd be great.
Hi, I'm Allison. I'm from the Philly area most recently, and I grew up near Pittsburgh.
I'm Kyle. I grew up in Western Michigan, but I've lived in New York City for the past like 15, 16 years.
Hi, I'm Brandon. I'm from Virginia, born and raised, and I've lived there pretty much my entire life.
All right, great. So what we're going to do is I have some questions that I'm going to ask the students. These are current students that we have here. They joined us just in August. So I'm going to ask them certain questions. If you are interested in asking questions either to myself or to the panel of students, please utilize the chat. If you enter your questions in the chat, we will get to them after the questions with the panel. So please utilize the chat. And so I'm going to get started with my question. So just a quick question I'm going to ask all three of you. What did you do before you came to Longwood in August?
I was working, I went to school at Drexel for architecture and got my BArch and was a licensed architect for maybe 10 to 15 years.
And I was a performer on Broadway in New York City for 12, 13 years. Math is not my forte, so somewhere around there, over a decade. And then I was also working as the head of sales for a small gym in New York City before this as well.
Before I came to Longwood, I was working on an organic vegetable farm. I did 3 full seasons there before I came to Longwood.
Okay, next question. Why did you apply? So it sounds like you all had places to be, interesting careers, doing good things. So why did you apply to this program?
At a certain point in my career, I realized that the work wasn't what I wanted it to be any longer. And I started exploring alternatives, and something that I was interested in architecture was getting more plants into the urban environment and the built environment. I was exploring that from an architectural perspective for a while, but I realized that maybe I would have more fulfillment exploring it from a plant perspective. And when I came across the program at Longwood, it seemed like the perfect mix of like hands-on and classroom education to become a plant expert. So that's what brought me here.
And for me, I always loved gardening growing up since I was like a little kid. It was like I loved gardening and I loved performing, and the performing end sort of took off and I put all my eggs into that basket. And I'm 37 now, and I felt like I had done it. Felt like oh, I've done this career. It went really well for me. Like what else is there? And I remembered like, oh, my first love. And then through complete serendipity, I walked through the gates of Longwood with friends on the way back from a road trip in the Smoky Mountains, and walked in the gates. And it was just this moment where I was like, I felt like I had been here before, even though I hadn't. I felt like I was home. And I saw the things that Longwood was doing with plants, and I had never seen anything like it before in my life. And I thought to myself, I was like, I need to figure out how to do this. Like, teach me how to do that. Then I found out about the professional horticulture program and was like, oh my goodness, this is like the perfect fit for me. I just knew there was no other place that I wanted to learn from more than I wanted to learn from Longwood.
And for myself, working with vegetables for the past 3 years before I applied to Longwood, I just had a desire to learn more about plants themselves, how they work, why they work, what is going on with the plant, but also like being kind of introduced to ornamental horticulture just on the side. I had a few friends that were involved in ornamental horticulture, and that kind of piqued my interest in finding a domestic program that had pretty much an educational aspect to it that would show you what that would be like as a career, and also wanting to be a professional horticulturist. That kind of drove me to this program. I really like the idea of like being able to go through a rigorous program, to be taught by industry professionals, and to come out on the other end as someone that I wanted to be when I began applying. So I really like the idea of becoming a professional horticulture program or person.
Excellent. So we are getting some questions coming through. We will answer them eventually if we don't answer them in the meantime. So what's it like living at Longwood? Because it's residential, you're here. We encourage people to live here, by the way. You don't have to live on site. If you live locally and you want to commute, you can, but the three of these students actually live on site. And so what's it like living on site? Can you give us a little bit of insight into that?
For one, coming from an urban environment, it's been really lovely to be like in nature and in proximity to like such like a beautiful space. There is a cool microclimate out here, and it gets like foggy sometimes, and I don't know, I just love it. I think it's gorgeous. The loudest thing here is the crickets. And sometimes in the summertime you can hear the like fountain show music off in the distance. So that was a really nice change. And because our schedules are quite busy, I think being close to our work and our class space, and then our class workspace, which will be our gardens, is really important and helpful. So everything's so close by.
Yeah, to be honest with you, when I found out that I got accepted into the program, my biggest worry was the living situation. Just because I'm an adult, I have lived on my own, I've lived with my husband, I've lived, with roommates, and I was like, I don't know as a 37-year-old what it's going to be like living with a housemate or living like, I don't have a car. So I was very nervous about that. That was the number one thing I was nervous about. And I will say it is actually one of my favorite parts of the program. It is so nice. You will never have a shorter commute. It's a 5-minute walk to work, a 5-minute walk to class. You're surrounded by like really cool people who you can collaborate with, who you can just like have fun and enjoy yourself with. The housing, I'm fortunate enough to be in a recently renovated home, so it's very nice. Even when like my friends from New York City come to visit, they'll come and see it and be like, wait, you live here? Like, how do I get into Longwood? This is amazing. So I was very, very pleasantly surprised with the situation.
Pretty much like has been said, imagine living in the backyard of a Longwood Gardens. So, I mean, when there are events going on, you are somewhat privy to them. You can walk down into the gardens, enjoy them as a student. It feels fantastic being able to enter the gardens from the, I don't know, the back door per se, but you have living on the road, you have a group of people that you can collaborate with, access to, a really good support system. Altogether, it's a good experience living and working here.
I will say even just in terms of learning, it's really nice because we're in a lot of plant ID classes, and we're in our tropic plant ID final is coming up, and we have close to like 170-ish plants on that final. And it's very nice to be a 5-minute walk away from the conservatory and be like, I've got a half an hour, I'm gonna walk through the conservatory and just like go over those plants, and then run into 2 other pro hearts doing the exact same thing. Be like, wait, you go get the leaf from this, I'll go get the leaf from this, and we'll all join up and bring them home and like study. So just from a learning point of view, it's so nice.
Totally.
Okay. So what should an applicant expect from their work rotations? So how is it? So we talked about living. How is it working, and how has that experience been for you? Because you all just kind of got thrown into things. We sort of say, here's your supervisor, go check it out. How did that work for you guys? How is working here?
My experience so far has been like really fun, very, very challenging for me also, like adapting to a manual labor job from a desk job for so long, but it's happening. If I can do it, I think it's possible that like many other people can do it. That is something to be aware of though, that you might take some time to adjust to that. The work that we all do, since we're all in different rotations at different times throughout the year, can be quite different. Today in the conservatory, I'm in the conservatory rotation right now. I was on a lift. I don't know what those pieces of equipment are called. A lift. Yeah. Up in the rafters trimming a passion flower plant while some of my classmates were working on a change out in one of the corridors of the conservatory for like a new display, while some other classmates were down in the production area working on behind the scenes things with plants. So like we can all be in the same rotation and doing very different tasks each day, which is fun and interesting, and just something to be aware of, that there's so much variety of experiences that you can have. Yeah, I'll stop there.
Yeah, I would say what I really appreciate about it is that you get the chance to get your hands in a little bit of everything. And what I really appreciate is that they don't have us doing something that the gardeners aren't doing. It's not like, oh, the gardeners are doing this really important thing, and then put the pro hort on, I don't know, cutting steaks. Like that was what I was afraid I was going to be doing. But even if there's a job that I don't necessarily love doing, I'm sitting next to my supervisor who's doing the same job. And I really appreciate that. And it's not like we're just put in the background to sort of figure it out. They gave us more responsibility than I thought they were going to give us,
So true.
which is nice. Like in my outdoor rotation at one point, it was me and Alex, and they were like, okay, here's this, you know, here's all the plants. Here's the idea we want for the display. We trust you, go for it. And we're like, were you sure? Yeah, you'll be great. All right. And we did it, and we showed him afterwards. He's like, that was amazing. And that display's been up in the garden for like 6 months now. So
Nice.
come and see it.
Yeah, like has been said before, you get a full range of like experiences in each department that you're in. You guys saw the schedule that was posted earlier as Crystal was kind of explaining how the program works. A few of us have only been through a few, like for instance, myself, I've only been through the conservatory rotation and production rotation. Actually, today is my last day in production, and all of our last days and where we are in our rotations. Depending on what you're doing, the days, sometimes they zip by super fast. Sometimes you'll look back a month ago and you can't believe all the things that you've done and learned. You get to work with, obviously, the gardeners here, professionals in their own specialties. You get to interact with them if you want to. You can reach out to as many people as you want to and ask to work on a special thing if you want. Or like Kyle had mentioned, you're working right alongside your supervisor doing something that they're not going to put you off on a task that's totally mundane or something that they see below themselves doing. That it's a rich experience. Sometimes you're kind of like caught up in a whirlwind of what's going on in that moment, but overall, it's busy, but also
And just one more thing to add, like sort of furthering your point, we are sometimes all doing something different, and sometimes there's like a thing going on and you're like, ooh, I want to participate in that, but you know, that's not what I was scheduled for. And everyone is super accommodating to try to get you doing the things that excite you. And like, it doesn't always 100% play out, but if there is something that you're into, I love being on these lifts, and like in the conservatory, that they've been like really cool about like sending tasks my way that involve like being on the lifts. And I think that they try to hear you when you're into certain things and get you doing those things. So that's really nice.
So we've had some questions around work and rotations And I'm going to jump in here and answer a couple of those questions. Regarding scheduling for rotations, everyone goes through the same scheduled areas. It's not you can't pick a selected area and say, I just want to be in conservatory. I don't want to rotate through those other areas. Everybody gets an equal chance to go through the areas with the scheduling. The program is not a personalized program to the point that you can select your track and run down that road. Work schedule is generally Monday through Friday. However, students are, as those of you that are in horticulture would know or know information about it, plants need water every day. And so it is a 365-day operation. And so there are weekend watering schedules for indoors, outdoors, and production. You don't have to water every weekend, but there is a rotation. And then we also, because it snows here in Pennsylvania, the students are assigned snow weekends where they would be available to do snow removal. So it isn't a Monday through Friday job because plants aren't a Monday through Friday job. So there is some of that weekend work that is required as well. So I'm going to ask the next question because this kind of answers some of the things. What qualities do you guys believe make you to be a successful pro-hort candidate? And that's important because there's a lot of questions coming in around, well, do I need to have experience? How much experience do I need to have? And all of those things. And to be honest, the program used to require you to have a year of work experience, paid work experience in horticulture. That isn't the case so much anymore, that we're looking for paid. Being a part of the professional horticulture community is, so we look for people that have interests. We look for people as to where they want to end up when they get through the program. But we also look for some of those special qualities. Are you a leader? Can you work on a team? Can you collaborate? Can you be part of a community? And how would you interact in those settings? Because we are really trying to build a learning community. And that's a unique thing to try to build. And so when we look at applicants, we look at some of those more perhaps softer skills that are not, I have this big basis knowledge, but I have these skills that I can apply and can help build that community. So anyway, so I'm going to ask each of you, and you can just add on as you see, what qualities do you think you need to have to be a successful professional horticulture student? Because one of the other questions, we're getting a lot of questions around, you know, can I do this? Is it a, you know, people looking for how much time does it take? And I think we had this discussion yesterday. It's not 9 to 5, and it takes up a lot of time. So maybe you can just speak to some of the qualities you need to be successful. You've been here, what, 6 months now, but I think you probably have a good idea of what you need to get through it.
One of the things that I've been thinking about is the need for flexibility. Like we were saying before, the work rotations, for example, are all quite varied. And one person might be on the outdoor rotation in the middle of summer, another person might be on it in the middle of winter. And you just have totally different scenarios that you're kind of adapting to and working with each day. Sometimes it's like weather related. Sometimes it's just, you know, the nature of what's going on in the garden. We have our classes going on. Our schedule is very full and very, I want to say diverse, because we're working one day, we're in class another day, and it alternates. And that keeps it like very exciting and interesting, and you can apply what you're learning from class and work and vice versa. But at the same time, it just means that there are like constantly moving parts. Things are changing sometimes on the schedule because of like holidays coming up or different events that are going on, or, you know, a field trip that you want to take in class, or the weather. And I imagine that this will come through in our professional experience too, just because plants and weather are, you know, ever changing, and we're just kind of along for the ride. So that's a huge thing for me is like trying to remember to just like remain flexible and go with the flow and, you know, take what each day has to offer.
Yeah, I would say piggybacking off of that, it's really important to be able to plan and multitask. It sort of feels like if you've ever been a server or a bartender, anyone out there, and you've got a lot of things to do. It's like you've got to clean the table, and then you got to seat the new person, and then you got to take the order, and then you got to bring the order out. So you're in your work rotation, and we're doing classes, and you also then have homework at the end of the day, or the beginning of the day, depending how early you get up. And if you're only doing those three, your plants that you are responsible for some of those classes that are in your greenhouse are dead because you forgot to water them. So it's like you really got to be able to track where things are. And I would say it's also important to be able to ask for help. I couldn't do just what I'm doing without, like, if I'm going to be out of town for some reason, without being able to be like, hey, can you please water my plants that weekend, and trust that you're going to do that. So that's important. I will say for me, my husband lives home in New York City. So it is possible to have a life alongside of doing this program. And the only way that it is possible to have a life alongside doing this program is if you're multitasking and planning. Because I go home every 3 weekends to see him, and it is doable. That was one thing I was really afraid of with the program, was like, is it only this? And like, can I not see my friends from New York? And it is doable, and you've really got to be on top of your stuff to be able to do it.
Yes.
And to go along with both of them, I would say a good quality would be determination and resilience, because these things, they sometimes they can hit you and you're not expecting it to be so overwhelming in a moment. But like having that, the ability to say, to stick with it, to push forward, and to stay at what you're doing is, I think, very valuable. Because yeah, you can be, it changes, it morphs, the program morphs as you go. So it can knock you off your feet to get back up and go back at it, keep going, look at the finish line and say, yeah, I'm gonna get there. It's tough. Like, you're here for 1 month and you feel like you've been here for like a year. It has that effect a little bit. But I would also say, to go along with that, is to have curiosity too. So when you're in your work rotations, to reach out to all the people that you're working with, because they've been in this profession for some of them have been here for over 2 decades. So being able to reach out to them, ask them what they're doing, why they're doing it, why we're doing it this way, all those things, but also to dig deeper too, is essential. I think just showing up to work and just doing it and going back to your room to do your homework, having a little bit more, or giving a little bit more effort into those areas, I think is highly valuable.
Okay. Somebody just asked, what happens if you fail your Tropicals ID final? None of you are going to do that, I hope. Is that
We're not
correct?
putting that into the atmosphere.
We do actually have, just similar as you would at a college or university, there are certain requirements that must be maintained for grade levels and such, but they're all going to be good because that's how they are. So, so there are a couple other questions. One of the questions that seems to keep coming up is, where do you see yourself when this program is over? What are you, or is there anything that's really excited you about the program? You've only been here really a short period of time, but where do you see yourself going?
You want to do 1, 2, 3?
Sure. I mean, I'm honestly not 100% sure yet. You know, we've been doing this for 6 months, but I feel like I'm just starting to like get into the swing of things. And we have like a really big year ahead with having our own gardens starting up. So our hands will be in the dirt in a different way than they've been at work, because it will be much more self-guided. You know, it was really fun working with Tim on the water lilies. I do enjoy running heavy equipment, which I don't know, I didn't expect that going into it. We just started our Woody ID class, working with trees and arboriculture is something that interests me, but like we're just getting into those classes, so it still like remains to be seen, I guess. So a lot of options are still open for me, and I'm enjoying the variety of subjects that we're learning, so I can kind of sort it all out.
Yeah, I would do kind of a repeat of what you said. One of the reasons that I applied for this program is I wanted to find out what excited me in the different areas of horticulture and what did not excite me in the different areas of horticulture. To know like, oh, I don't want to do that thing. That does not excite me. And there are classes or work rotations that I've taken, and while I found them valuable, I'm like, this does not set my heart aflutter. I know floriculture is not for me. It's just not, it's not it for me. Which to me is equally as valuable as finding the one thing that it is that you want to do, is finding the thing that you know you don't want to do, so you can like keep forging forward from there. And I think, at least with you, I'm in a similar place. I'm very excited to find out where I'm going to be in a year and a half, and open to many, many possibilities.
Yeah, I've been told multiple times that something will come across your path and you'll just like be so excited about it, and that's the thing that you know you want to do. Likewise, I don't necessarily know where I want to be. I have to reluctantly admit that I'm enjoying my production rotation. I didn't think I would. There are some heavily mundane tasks that are involved in that, but it's been fun just kind of seeing how I came here to see how plants work, and that is really, you get to see from the beginning to the end. So that's been really, really cool. I've been kind of peeking at some specialty nurseries around the country because I feel like kind of a specialty situation would be much more interesting to me personally. Outside of that, like gardening, I've been able to do a little bit of like side work as a gardener, and it's been really, really fun. That's not necessarily always a thing that you do. It's busy. But and we get to volunteer at other gardens in the area, and just those aspects have kind of drawn me into like, all right, if I'm going to garden, will I grow and garden at the same time? But not really sure what it's going to look like at the end.
All right, and always the ultimate question: what was your favorite part so far, and what's been your least favorite part?
Field trips.
I know, I need to think for a minute.
Field trip.
No, favorite, yeah. No, being exposed to different parts of horticulture has been my favorite part, because it's just like you're going through a new door every time. You get to do something different. That is awesome. So that's my favorite part. Getting to talk to people about what they're doing is awesome. Also, kind of, I didn't realize, but it's kind of coming like piecing the picture together. Like it's you get thrown in, you don't know what's really going on. You have a vague idea, but then seeing the picture all come together has been my favorite. And I'll think about my least favorite.
I got mine. My favorite is plant ID, actually. I love being able to walk through the garden. I'm kind of a dork, like a self-professed dork. I love being able to walk through the garden and be like, that's Pentas lanceolata. It likes warm conditions, and I can grow it from seed. And like knowing more about plants and what they're called. I don't know. I feel very, in the 6 months, like so accomplished. How many plants have we learned in 6 months?
Too many.
300?
Hundreds.
That we know the genus, species, cultivar, nativity, and family name, along with like the kind of conditions they want. That's amazing. Like I would not have done that on my own, because I'm a naturally lazy person, but having the system there to support me to sort of like hold my hand to do it has been love. Least favorite part. So for me, it's really difficult. Having had a career already, to go into new work rotations. And so for me, it's been pretty much every month, and just not know the lay of the land. To walk in and be like, where is the trash can? Okay, the trash can's over there. Great. And you really have to be able to humble yourself and really like keep the like learner's mind every single time, because just the second you start figuring something out, you're moving on to the next thing and you're the new guy again. So that's been very difficult for me.
I really loved my outdoor rotations, also our plant science class, and they kind of go hand in hand, because being outside in the garden every day, I was able to just see these tiny changes in plants every day, the way the weather was influencing plants, close encounters with bugs and different things, and just like seeing the ecosystem functioning each day and just being exposed to it every day was so magical. And even if I was set to do like a very mundane task, I was just loving it because I was surrounded by plants and just could see what was happening with them all the time. And learning plant science was helpful too, because, you know, that was getting us into like the actual interworkings of what's going on and like why plants are able to do what they're doing. Yeah, so that was wonderful and magical, and it set a good foundation for the whole experience. My least favorite thing, maybe sort of along the lines of what Kyle's talking about being the noob, because I, you know, was starting to enter into a place of expertise in my former career. And then I came into this environment where it was very exciting because everything was new, but at the same time, very humbling. And I feel like I want to be an expert in it. And I just know that it's going to be like, it's this new journey that I'm just starting out on. And that is an adjustment to make for me personally. But I'm here for it, and it'll be good. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, thinking on my least favorite, it's in the same vein.
Don't you dare copy what
Yeah, I'm copying what they said. It's shifting gears all the time. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like you get used to something and then all of a sudden you're being spun around with a bag on your head or something. I don't know. No, it's not that bad. No, it's yeah, the shifting gears is it's tough, but you get used to it.
All right, there's a specific question for the architect. There's someone in the audience who's an architect. Did you think about landscape architecture? If so, why did you pick horticulture?
I only a little bit thought about landscape architecture. I wanted to be hands-on with my work, and that was a challenge for me with architecture proper as opposed to landscape architecture. And so a lot of people, when I said, oh, I'm interested in plants, were like, ooh, landscape architecture, like that seemed like the natural next step. But I really wanted to like get out from behind the desk and be outside, like actively implementing the design thinking or whatever, and having like a more tactile experience. Maybe landscape architecture will come again in the future, I don't know. But it's kind of really out in the far reaches for me right now, if that makes sense.
Okay, thanks. So there's some questions. We're getting towards the end of the hour, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. But one question came up that I thought this is like a cool question. Does everyone that's accepted into the program get the cool Longwood Garden t-shirts and sweatshirts?
Yeah, baby. This is waiting for you right here. You get accepted to the program. This nice hoodie. Ooh. And I believe you're issued 2 of the long sleeves, 3 of the long sleeves, something like that.
So yes, you are provided some Longwood swag in the process. Some of those things are taken care of, and you all even got some Carhartt, I believe, along the way. Is that correct? Okay. So so I'm getting a lot of questions right now that I'm going to try to go into, and unfortunately, we were not going to get to everyone's question. Y'all can reach out to me, but so anyway, there's some questions around how competitive the program is, how do we go through application process, what happens and all of that. So the applications are open right now. Number one, you do need to be a US citizen. I noticed we have some international folks on the call right now, and you do need to be a US citizen. If you're here on a visa, we have a separate international internship program, which is a J1 visa classification, and that's a separate program that we do here. And this year, due to people from the pandemic not being able to come, we will not be doing international intern applications at this time. Usually we do those during March. And so if you are interested in that, look to that next year to apply in March for a September 2023 arrival. And then basically the way we do with the ProHort program, last year there were 83 applicants that finished their application. Out of those, we have a selection committee that selects 20 of them. 20 of the applicants come on site. We do an interview, we do a day-long process where we have interviews, where we have lunch, we do a little activity about teams. And then also the professional horticulture students, the current cohort, 3 of which you've just met, get to tour you around the gardens and show you where the row is and living, and you can ask questions of them while you're here. After that, then we select the top 10 of those, and those folks are offered positions. So the procedure this year will be the end of March. The application will close, and that is an online application. If you're interested, you need to go to our website, apply online. We then will meet as a selection committee. Interviews on site right now are scheduled for the end of April, and by May 1st, we'll know who we're going to schedule and bring in for the class of 2024, which will start in August of 2022. So that's kind of the questions around that. I will tell you, it is a very competitive process. It's always been a very competitive process. We get really great applicants from all over the country. And the ones that we do select for the program, again, we're looking for people that are passionate about horticulture, passionate about plants. There was a question regarding, do we really work with wildlife? Not a whole lot. There is a little bit, but not during the ProHort program. There's little rotations through there, but nothing significant. And so plants, we're really focusing on that. And so we look for people that really can utilize this program to further horticulture throughout the country and throughout the world. And so we're looking for people with a really good plan of how this is going to help them get where they want to be. So I'm trying to look quick through all these other questions. If you aren't accepted the first time, you're more than welcome to apply for the next year. I'm trying to see what other ones we have here. Let me see. There was a question around, do you get to work with honeybees? We are trying to work with a local honeybee person who is has a hive here, but we've yet to be able to figure out how to get him incorporated back in. So we will be working with honeybees. It is not a part of the official program, though. It's something that we have here. I think that's about where we're at. We have Nick on the backside, who you guys don't see here or know, and he's shooting me questions. So what are the age groups between the students? Oh, okay. So one of the questions always comes up, and I said we have a pretty broad range of ages. So I think the current cohort, if I'm correct, it was between 18 and 36, I think, years old.
37.
37.
37. Okay. Sorry, you're the old man, right? And so, so the question was, how is it working with 18-year-olds and 37-year-olds? And we don't have any 18-year-olds on the panel today, but how are you all about having 18-year-olds as part of your community cohort, living, working, learning?
I was nervous about it, but I love it. I love the age range and the different backgrounds of everybody.
It's a good mix.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else, Nick? Nick, throw me something if there's something I missed. I think I got through everything. Oh, how does Longwood define fully vaccinated? So we do all staff, volunteers, and students that work here at Longwood Gardens are required to be fully vaccinated, which means if you either need to have the one, if it's Johnson & Johnson, or the 2 Moderna or Pfizer vaccinations, provide a vaccination card. That is a requirement of being part of the program. And so we know that everyone is vaccinated that is here. And so that is part of Longwood's policies. All right. I think we're good. Anybody have any last minute questions? I'm trying to go down here. Will plant breeding hybridizing be done within the 2 years? So question, any of you been in research yet? Have you rotated through research yet?
Nope.
No.
But like even Greg with the orchids was talking a lot about breeding and hybridization as it related to the orchids. And I imagine you could dig into that further. And I mean, they are breeding plants in research. So like during that rotation, you would get exposed to that. And like Brandon said, all of our classmates have kind of made connections with various people of interest, and are able to go like visit their greenhouse or work on the side for them, or, you know, borrow books, you know what I mean? Like there are, if you want additional info on a subject that isn't officially part of your rotation or class, there are avenues for that. Okay, so we're going to wrap things up. Final question that came in regarding vaccinations, and I want to be clear about this. There are exemptions can be applied for and made for medical purposes and also religious purposes. So we do encourage everyone, but there is a process for religious and medical reasons to be exempt from the vaccination requirement. So, so I want to thank everyone for being here. It's been a great hour. We appreciate you all and your questions and being here. Again, this actually, the link will be sent out to you to this recording, and it will also be posted on our website, and it will live there for a while. So if you have anything that you need to review or something you might have missed, please feel free to jump on to our website. It'll probably take a couple of days till we get it edited and have it put out there, but be looking for that. And the other thing, if you have any questions, there also is a link on the application page on the website that will link you to someone who can answer your questions. And so feel free to shoot any of those questions our direction, and we'll get back to you and give you that information. So thank you again for your interest. We appreciate you being here. Thank you to the ProHorts who have been here. Appreciate you guys. So everybody have a great rest of the day and enjoy.